everybody, and welcome to the Theatre Pitch podcast. I'm Jem, this is Sean.
Hello!
Hello, and this is Joe.
I am.
And this is the Theatre Pitch podcast, where every week we take an online encyclopedia article that is randomly chosen, and each of us have to come up with a pitch of how we'd stage it as a theatre show. And then right at the end of the podcast, because in true Offities fashion, we have to smush those three ideas together to create a fourth idea that hopefully is better, or at the very least is coherent than the first three. And then you guys listening at home and watching at home, you guys then can choose which one is best, or try and pitch your better argument and your better idea for this week's article. Which this week's
We did the intro!
We did the intro! I've got a clicky pen and it's really, really gonna annoy whoever's listening to it. So I'm putting the pen down, so let's try this.
Pens down!
Pens down! I'm really excited about this week's article because last week Sean was in his element with DC, and but this week I was totally in my element because as a teenager I was a huge fan of Edward Cullen. Joe, for anybody who managed to escape the grips of the Twilight fandom, would you like to read the opening paragraph to the article Edward Cullen?
Well, if you haven't already grasped this, there's some information that's already been covered. Edward Cullen, née Edward Anthony Mason Jr., is a fictional character in Stephenie Meyer's Twilight series. He features in the books Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse and Breaking Dawn, and their corresponding film adaptations, as well as the yet unfinished novel Midnight Sun, a retelling of the events of the first Twilight book from his perspective. Edward is a telepathic vampire over the course of the series, falls in love with, marries and has a child with Bella Swan, a human teenager who later chooses to become a vampire as well. In the Twilight film series, Edward is portrayed by the actor Robert Pattinson.
So, slight spoiler alert we should have given, but we've just also saved you a lot of time reading and watching things that universally weren't liked, but were loved by a certain demographic that I fell into. I'm so excited for this.
Also, like, the last of those books, I just looked up, came out 2008. So frankly, I feel like 12 years is a solid, statute of limitations on spoilers.
Whoa, it's been 12 years?
Since the last book, yeah.
Oh, goodness. I should not have remembered as much about it as I did. I barely had to read the Wikipedia article. I was like, come on, there must be something interesting that I don't remember or don't know. No, I was a big fan. How did you guys find it?
Easy. I smashed it this week. Smashed it.
I have smashed it. I'm so excited about my pitch. I've been pumped all day. I've just been I just want to record the podcast. And I've already pitched this to about 4 different people, just being I want to tell you about the show that I've created.
Well, as you seem to be excited about it, Jem, why don't you wait till after me and Sean have gone?
I was about to say, I'm not going first because mine's going to blow yours out of the water in a very unexpected way. And I find it enthralling, so I'm going to make you guys go first. So, who wants to go first? Sean, I think you're looking like you're please pick me.
I'll go first. I'll go first, Jem.
The evil part of me that's really power hungry right now is wanting to make Joe go first, just to spite you. But no, Sean, backseat it.
Unless Joe wants to go first, because
I don't really care.
Okay. I love that attitude.
Sean, you go.
Right. I've just realised I've opened my book to look at the notes. Wrong page. I was just about to go, okay, Batwoman, Blue Beetle. That's the wrong one. Hi guys.
And welcome to this episode, Sean.
So I'll tell you what I've been what my thought process this week. Okay, so we got Edward Cullen, and obviously he's a vampire. So I thought, okay, vampires, okay, they're immortal. So I was thinking, what's the cool things about vampires? So I went back to Buffy, as you do, and I thought, what was the cool things about Angel and Spike? And I thought the cool scenes with them was when you went back in time, and you were seeing what they were doing in the 1800s, and they were just being them, being being
Them
scoundrels.
oldie time selves.
Yeah, in the back in the day. And then I was thinking about, who else is immortal? And I was thinking Highlander. And I was thinking all of the cool things, the flashbacks in that, where he's like doing the things. And also I was thinking like the admin the guy in Highlander has to do, because he's immortal. So he always has to
Get
sort of like,
a new identity.
Yeah, that's where I was. And then I was watching What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show. The TV show.
The film is fantastic.
Okay, but I'm not on about the film, I'm on about the TV show. Okay.
So shut up, Gem.
Yeah, shut up, Gemma.
I'm so excited.
And it's not the TV show itself, it's actually the intro. So the intro is basically it's a cool song, but it's just panning across like pictures of them and portraits of them throughout the decade. So you've got like oil paintings that they were like drawn, and then there's like pictures of them like being punks, like going out. So my idea from all of that is it's I want to call it the vampire monologue.
Okay.
Yep, because it started off as a joke in my head, and I was like, no, I'm sticking with that name. Okay.
All right.
So, Black Box, I just want to point this out. I genuinely think this show could make a ton of money. If this toured America, this would be £1 million show. Right.
Okay, I've got a feeling you're going to just pitch like Interview with a Vampire, but go on.
No, that was a name. That was a title, but I thought, someone's already done that as a title. But yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking. So, but Black Box, where it's a plain stage with a chair. It's set up exactly like Fleabag. It's nothing's on stage. And then Edward Cullen comes out. Okay. And then for 2 hours, it is a monologue from Edward Cullen. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I think this would be really interesting is because when you actually like look at his life, he's actually lived a little bit.
He did live a little bit, yeah.
So he was born in the 1901, yes, in Chicago. Yeah. So he lived a life. He lived a life. Got to 17, and he got the Spanish flu. His parents died. He died, and then a doctor turned out to be a vampire. Turned him into a vampire. So what we're really covering on, he's going to tell you his life story.
Yeah.
And there's certain bits where it'd be really interesting, because he's obviously grew up and got to his like teenage years, and then World War One's happening. And in his bio, it was like, he wants to go off and fight the war.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to talk about viewing World War One as a mortal, and then viewing World War Two when you've just become immortal. How do you see conflict and death when effectively you can't die anymore? So that would be the first one I'd really focus on. I really want to talk. The main bulk of the show would be him talking about watching the world develop into what it is now, but from a distance, because he's a vampire, so he can't really be part of like the world. But he's like from like the early 1900s. Is it the 19? Yeah, from when he was born to like where we are in the play, which is like the early 2000. Not the play, in the books, the early 2000s. The world changed an absolute ton. We got like. So he could talk about that. He could talk about what's it like, because he's got a really cool family dynamic. Because even though like being adopted into a family is nothing interesting, but how about like you've been with the family for 20 years and then they adopt someone else who's the same age, like who's effectively isn't one of his brothers who gets adopted later, like physically older than him but younger.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And then he's got like that adopted sister that comes, and he becomes very protective of her. So you could talk about how that family dynamic actually works.
Yeah.
What else did I get? Okay, obviously the admin that comes with living forever, because it said in his wiki he has to do it every 50 years.
Yeah.
So obviously that must be a ball ache. Because I don't like doing like my bank account stuff now when I am me. But how about doing that as someone else trying to do it like, oh, that person died, but that's you. But then you got to try and come up with another person. Yeah. Adopted family, I've got that. The world, yeah. And then, like, the last bit would be, so he's been separated from the world, only really, like, he keeps going to school, because he's 17, like, as a boy. So he's got, like, loads of degrees. But how does he decide that, like, I'm gonna be part of the world now with, what's her name? Bella. How does he decide that this is the time when? How did he know that this was the girl? Like, I'm gonna like rejoin the world to be with, and then the conflict in him when she's like, "Yeah, I'll be a vampire as well," because he can talk about it throughout the show. Because there must have been a point where, because it says his family's like they're like vegetarian vampires, so they're only eating animals. But there must have been a point where he wasn't. There must have been a point where he was like a monster, you know, like the vampire monster.
Yeah.
So it must have been like that conflict where he's sort of gonna turn this precious thing that he sees into a vampire. That's the show. So it's Fleabag but vampires.
It's Fleabag but vampires. I love it.
It was the bit when I was reading when he was like, he turned 17, just like towards the end of World War One, and that's when he became a vampire. And I just thought like imagine growing up thinking I want to go out and fight and help the world, and then your world as you know it ends.
Yeah.
You have to take a step back from the world. But then you're immortal. But then this even bigger war happens. Do you still feel like I want to go off and help? Do I want to, or do I stay back because there's all this? I just thought it'd be a cool thing to go for. In my notes, it just says World War One, mortal. World War Two, immortal.
Well, you put it. I like that. Like the history nerd in me is really sitting here going, ooh, and the person who likes psychology and the person who likes character studies is like, ooh, I like it.
Yeah, that's what I just thought. I just thought vampires, like, they're such good characters. Yeah. Like when you actually like sit them down and you actually sort of like, yeah, they're so good characters because they've lived so much.
Yeah. And then they get persecuted and stabbed in the heart with a wooden stake by Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, you know what? You know what? She had to send Angel to hell. You know what? Because he was a wrong un in season 2.
Because Spike was better. That's the reason.
But then you get the vampires in What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series. You know, and you love them. But they're killing people. But then they've also like lived a life, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
That's my idea. Vampire telling his life story in a blank stage, and it's called Vampire Monologues because I'm obviously ripping off a title from another thing that's set similarly.
I like it. I like it an awful lot. Okay. Joe, do you want to...
So I was thinking about this, and I looked at the Edward Cullen page, and then I realised everything's been said about vampires that needs to be said, and let's be honest, most of it is kind of getting a bit trite. So I've decided to not talk about vampires at all.
Okay.
So I was thinking about it, and basically I kept coming back to when I was thinking about it. One of my genuinely favourite books of the last few years, called The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. And the essential plot of it is that it's kind of a treatise on these sort of young adult novels, in which our heroes are the normal kids, at schools where it's divided into, there's the indie kids who are the ones who go off and have romances with vampires and get involved with plots and become the chosen ones. The rest of us don't. And then I remembered Anna Kendrick's character of Jessica in the Twilight novels.
Yeah.
The on and off again best friend of Bella Thorne.
Yes.
And it is Thorne, isn't it?
Bella Swan.
Yes,
I was
it
thinking
is.
that Bella Thorne's an actress, I think.
Yeah. But
Doesn't
Bella
matter.
Swan's the character.
Bella Swan.
Her last name's Swan.
Her last
Her
name
last
is
name's
Swan.
Swan.
She's a delicate little human, and they called her Swan.
Yeah.
Oh, don't hurt her neck. Oh no.
So,
She'll peck you.
yeah. My idea is essentially the play is about Jessica, this normal person who lives in a town where there just so happens to be a war going on between the vampires and the werewolves, and also seemingly wars going on between werewolves and vampires and vampires.
Yes.
Um,
It's a conflicty world, the supernatural.
and here she lives in this Pacific Northwest town, just kind of existing as a person who ultimately may or may not get out of the town and may or may not end up with the same one mediocre guy that she's been on and off again with for the entirety of high school.
I think his name's Tyler.
His name is Mike.
Mike.
He's that mediocre that he's not even a memorable Mike.
I can't remember him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So my idea is that actually, while this is going on a screen behind you, we have the entirety of the first Twilight film playing. And
Okay.
every time one of Jessica's lines comes up, it syncs up with the actual play. Beyond
I
that,
like that.
beyond that, we see the entire story of what she was doing over this in this plot. And it is essentially just a kind of tale of small town America, of someone who is not excelling but not failing, is just drifting by. It's very similar, to be honest, to kind of my pitch ideas for the Everyman episode, but it is essentially, what are the stories of the people in the towns who aren't the people with stories?
I feel like there's a cup song involved as well. It feels
Oh,
very much
and
a similar character.
In keeping with the theme of the Twilight and what I remember of it, yes, it will have a soundtrack of surprisingly great indie bangers.
Yeah.
I've never seen Twilight, so I wouldn't know.
The
Wow.
films themselves, not great. I've only seen the first one, but the soundtracks,
Agreed.
So yours has got absolutely nothing to do with Edward Cullen?
he's there in the background. We just
He's there in
don't
the
talk about
background.
him.
Okay.
Yeah. He's just there as the creepy dude.
Because quite frankly, why do I want to hear more things about the 100-year-old man who's perving on an 18-year-old?
That's the whole premise of my show, Joe.
Yeah.
It's,
So
it's the
you're
notion that
pitching
there
the
are more
anti-genre.
interesting things and also much darker things happening elsewhere. But this is more a tale of small-town mediocrity.
Okay. That's
And,
I like that.
I like playing for the underdog.
yeah.
Knowing my pitch, I genuinely have no idea how we're gonna merge them. Because you guys could probably merge together in a weird way. Mine won't. So, do you see your show? So your show's going to the other need is it's gonna need some serious sync deal, in order to get the rights to play the film.
Well, yeah.
But
as this is a purely hypothetical thing,
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's not a problem. I have the producer on speed dial.
it's not impossible, It's
Well, exactly.
difficult, and it
Like-
ups the budget by a bit, but it's not impossible.
And especially as long as we actually just, kind of only have it playing in the background but don't use any of the audio, that's got to affect the rights, right?
Yeah, we can use it we can spin it to them as a promotional tool. For, considering Stephanie Meyer's got a new book coming out.
Yeah.
Which is actually it's a retelling of Twilight, but from Edward's
Yes,
perspective.
from Edward Cullen's perspective. We
So
covered this in the introduction.
So you've basically done what's it called? Midnight Sun, but from Jessica. So you've done Jessica's Sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wouldn't be midnight sun, it'd be more like midday.
Yeah.
Noon.
Yeah. Like 1:20 sun.
Yeah. Mid-afternoon cricket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mid-afternoon. You're hungry or should just wait till, dinner time. Yeah.
I'm
That's
just gonna
sort of...
call it mid-afternoon. Okay. There's something that I like in there. I'm not too sure what it is.
It's
I
the
really
idea,
like-
because it's really
the
good.
idea.
It's really funny though. After the little monologue I went on last week where I just described the biggest show with the most tech ever, right? Gemma didn't say a word to me about money, but this week you're like, can I play a film in the back? And you're like, how are you going to pay for that, Joe?
See?
No, you see, it's because, Sean, you talked for long enough that we were just like, we don't have time. We're
And
done.
also, we're so in awe and so sold by it. And, it also goes to illustrate timing affects pitches. Today, I'm not going to be the one who brings up budget with my show, but,
We will be.
We will. In fact, I'm going to start getting my spreadsheet ready now just to calculate the costs.
Are you ready with the spreadsheet?
Yep.
Because I've written out the pitch, and I wanted to just write out a blurb, and I wrote out the whole show, basically. I've done a Sean.
Bear in mind, we're also charging our own rates at a certain amount per hour, so the longer this pitch takes, the more the costs add up.
I'll speak fast, but I'll still speak clearly and coherently, and I'm going to enjoy this because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, when I sat down with Edward Cullen, I was like, oh, a show about Edward Cullen's life. Oh, I don't know, what happened after Twilight, etc., etc. And then I was just like, no, what's the show that I really, really, really want to see? And so this is it. And you could tell the kind of the quality and the state of its tone by the name that I've called it. I've called it Cullen. So the EN is in brackets, so it's CULL bracket EN bracket ED, like culled, but Cullen. Yeah, that was important to me. So the story is, Cullen is a story of a young real vampire. Sean's like, oh no.
I don't know what just happened. You were like, see you, and there's a bracket.
So I like brackets in the middle of show name titles. I don't know why. But Cullen is the story of a young real vampire and his crew having to exist in a world where people are focusing on vampires and therefore disrupting their secretive way of life. So all that humans know about vampires is wrong, but with them looking for their own Edward Cullen to get with, the real vampires of the world have to be extra careful in order to not be persecuted. And for the sweet love of blood, they don't sparkle. So in the city where they live, there are a few hundred vampires, but there are two waging factions. So one half is dreading the next time that vampires are in fashion because all eyes will be on them again. But the other half is trying to cause the next vampire fad so they can exploit it by donning glitter or whatever else that the authors tell teenagers they need to be attracted to in order to get an easy meal. And each side has its reasons, but in the end they're all trying not to get colds. You see what I did there? But essentially,
I get it now.
You get it. But essentially, it's inspired by, and it is a self-aware parody musical. It's the first time and possibly the only time in my life I'm pitching a proper musical, but I've got it. So it's a self-aware musical. So in the middle of all of these two waging sides, there is our young protagonist. He's called Eddie, because I'm very bad at naming and also self-aware. He detests Twilight and Edward Cullen and what it did to the world, and that's not just because they share the same name. Eddie tends to stay away from people. He's a computer tech nerd who works odd hours in his own little cave in his office block and doesn't interact with anybody much. Until a young woman who works in his block, who his team helps with IT, decides that emailing the IT guys isn't working well enough, and she just turns up at their door. It unnerves Eddie, and then he bumps into her again in the hallway around the building, and she's sweet, she's smart, she's a real go-getter, and these two characters will have a burgeoning romance, a plotline that Eddie is incredibly aware of and absolutely hates. So the first act is based in times when vampires aren't a thing anymore. Like, we're a few years, they were huge a few years ago, like Twilight made them a few years ago for us, but they are now just out of the zeitgeist for Eddie and his group to feel comfortable with again. So there is still that deep throbbing war under the surface of the vampire community, and as the other faction are trying to find the next best way to make vampires fashionable again. There are a few singing battles over this. Eddie has also killed so many good authors' careers by hacking publishing sites and their submissions and pulling it out of the hands of publishers, because they learned their lesson with Twilight and how Twilight and Bram Stoker brought vampires back into the zeitgeist. But this is where Eddie and Ellie meet. They meet in the first act in the office, and they start to get along. And then they start to get along really well. After a comment about him being a loner, and then a drop in at lunch, and then she brings cupcakes to the office, it goes from a sort of, why won't she go away, to when will she come again, ending with the comment from her to him referencing his name being quite similar to Edward Cullen. Maybe he did a dumb thing like pulling her out from in front of a car, that sparks a really rocky lament called, "Oh no, she's a fan." We end by finding out she is one of the people he blocked a manifesto to in 2 years ago, but he likes her enough to offer advice on the lore of vampires in her book, but he gets in trouble for doing this with his crew because he's told the truth a little bit about what vampires actually are, but he battles with the empathy that he's gaining for the other side, the faction that want vampires to be seen, because if she had an open thing for vampires, then maybe he could be his truer self with her. So emotions there. But then the second act takes place as her manifesto is picked up and leaked early, so vampires are suddenly in again. Eddie's crew are entirely pissed. They keep questioning, why didn't he catch this? That was his one job. And there's a trauma with him as he's questioned by his group, this group that he sees as his family, for his love of this human. The irony of his plotline is definitely not lost on him. He's very, very aware of it. But we see as the world turns on its head and we see the argument of the other side come to life, but we also see the disadvantages as one of the vampires in the city is brutally murdered in the suburbs by superstitious teenagers and some soccer moms. But they're all starting to notice, the community's starting to notice, as is Ellie. And Eddie has become distant with their new relationship. It's become tense and fraught. She thinks it's because she has found this new fame with something that he thinks is stupid, but he actually knows the truth, that it's all real, what he's told her. But when Eddie's faction decides to try and eliminate the threat to their way of life, which is Ellie, in order to get Eddie to focus again, he reveals to Ellie, and Ellie finds out that he is in fact a vampire. She's very sarcastic and thrown by it, with a rockabilly reprise of the song "Oh Fuck Off," which was a song that was sung in Act 1 by the vampires in response to Edward Cullen shining in the sun. But ultimately, they won't have the romance that Edward and Bella had. The truth comes out about vampires and that they're all just like normal people, but with a few odd elements like extended life expectancy and the need to drink blood. They are slightly stronger than a human, they're slightly faster, but only about as much faster as Usain Bolt is to the normal person. I've also written a song for it, and the song goes, is Usain Bolt a vampire? No, he's been in the sun. But is Usain Bolt a vampire? No, Ellie, we're not singing about this one. So that's very much the tone of the musical. But they eventually Ellie and Eddie eventually come to an understanding after Ellie runs away like a smart person, not like Bella. But then she comes back because rent has to be paid, and they still work in the same office block, which cues the song My Holiday Days Ran Out. But they come to realise, after sort of being forced into the same little block space, that they aren't harmful to each other, and that they form a kind of circle of life, and they realise each other's humanity, and that their shared experience and is far more important than any of the rumours or preconceptions about each other's lives and backgrounds. You know, we close on a bombastic song called Look Further Than You Think To, in brackets, the irony of this whole thing is not lost on Eddie. But other songs include Vampires Don't Sparkle, They Burn, Cows Are Pretty Too, But You Still Eat Them, Don't You? Vote Republican, red is for blood flow. Vote for Conservative, blue is for bloodshed. Which is based on, there's actually a really interesting social theory about how when Conservatives are in power, vampires are really in the zeitgeist because blood sucking, but when Republicans are in power, zombies are in fashion because mindless following. It's a really interesting thing. If you're interested in anybody who's listening,
I won't lie to you. That's what I thought Joe was going to do.
Yeah, I at that moment I was just like, this is getting more and more Joe. I think Joe's going to like this. But other songs include That Ain't a Healthy Relationship, This Is, and What Else Do I Do But Watch Her Eat Right Now. So, essentially, this is a musical that's examining the complexities of a two-sided argument on a way of life and how it is never as simple as two sides. It looks at the unhealthiness of believing what others tell you, relationships founded on lies, and the pressures others put on your individualism. It's a play that some drama student will understand as being deep social commentary on the war of opinion and the impact it has on relationships, but it's all dressed up in an Edward Cullen-shaped, self-aware parody musical that is the perfect combination between Mr. Robot, Avenue Q, and Bad Out of Hell. And the music style is far-reaching, as are the emotions of the show, with the dominant style being rock. But there is also some rap and some opera in a very Phantom of the Opera style, and that's my pitch.
What's the budget?
Well, I can tell you that. So
Joe?
we've obviously got the £100 per me and Sean that we are charging for our consultancy for this 1 hour period.
Okay, yeah.
Then
He's gonna do it.
if we take into account the kind of average cost of a Broadway show or West End show.
I don't know if this hits a West End. It's definitely going to do really, really well on the Fringe.
Yeah, but the thing is, this definitely
I mean,
feels like we need a live band, we need miking, we need a choreographer, we need a cast, we need a conductor.
We need an ensemble cast.
We need enough money to deal with the fact that I'm basing this purely off the fact that when it comes to TV rights, it's 12% of worldwide gross. And we technically need to pay for all 5 Twilight films and The Lion King, because you made mentions of A Circle of Life. We are looking at round about 600 million before space.
Cool. Brilliant. I like it.
I do have 3 other questions for this.
Yeah.
Number 1, Eddie and Ellie. Too similar. Change her name.
Yeah,
That's not a question, that's a statement.
I'm really bad. Yeah, Eddie is definitely there. And I was just like, okay, how do I turn Bella into a name that's sort of Bella?
Simple answer.
I was like,
Don't
Ella.
give her any other name.
Jessica. Done.
Yeah.
We're starting the writing process now.
It should just be something like Karen.
Yeah. Next
She's
thing.
She's not a Karen.
Next thing. You said it's a self-aware parody musical. Can you have a
Yes.
non-self-aware parody?
Yes.
How?
By just mocking it, by playing I can't remember the name of the style of character, but the style of character in Much Ado About Nothing, Dogberry is the style of character where he's not self-aware, but he is a parody of the dumbness. Like, when I say self-aware, I mean that the characters are self-aware about it. It's not sitting there being like The Office, where it's a parody or a satire about this thing, so that the self-awareness comes from the writers and the creators. I'm saying that the characters are literally sitting there going and singing the song, what else can I do but watch her eat right now? Because he's sitting there at lunch, because she drops in at lunch, and he's like, great, I can't eat things other than blood, and I've got the smoothie. And she's like, well, where do you get a food? And he's like, well, okay, I suddenly understand that we can't hate on Edward Cullen, because what else can I do but watch her eat right now?
That's not self-aware. That's just the conflict of the situation that he's in.
Yeah.
There are other self-aware
They have
moments.
they have that bit in they have that conflict in Deep Space Nine with Odo, but he's never like, oh, look at the camera, and he's like, I have to watch her eat because I am a changeling and I don't eat. Kira,
I've got to be honest. I'm impressed we've made it this far into the podcast, and I feel like this is Sean's first mention of Star Trek.
Deep Space Nine, Deep Space Nine.
And this does bring me, you Strem, that into my third question. Is the whole self-aware kind of like breaking the fourth wall meta shtick not as played out as vampires are at this point?
That's kind of the point, is that it's one of those things where I don't think he breaks the fourth wall. I think he just sits there, just like Mr. Robot kind of breaks the fourth wall, but doesn't, in a weird way. But he sits there and he's like, oh no, I don't want to, because his whole plot line, the whole plot line mirrors Twilight, but in a more realistic kind of way, rather than sitting there and going, oh, we're going to have longing stares into each other's eyes as I've just put my fist into a car and the car didn't crumple properly, and physics doesn't work, and oh my goodness, don't get me started on how ridiculous Twilight is, but I love it so much.
I like the idea of the vampires like trying to get like Netflix deals, because if vampires are popular again, it's easier for them to get like their fangs wet.
Yeah. This is the whole thing, is that they're sitting there and they're like trying to come up with the next Stephanie Meyer. They're trying to get Netflix deals. They're trying to get people to love vampires. Yeah. And I'm sitting here going, oh, what about like if there's that one botched mission that we don't talk about?
And then like the other half of like the vampires are like the trolls on the internet. Like, oh, Buffy was awful. Da 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 da. No to vampires, thank you.
Yeah, it's really techie in that weird way, but then they also get up and like have that kind of singing battle in the streets of this city, just like in Bad Out of Hell. I think stylistically it's very, very Bad Out of Hell, but then like tonally it's a mix between Avenue Q and Mr. Robot, and then also just elements of it's just funny, but also self-aware.
I get it though, because I used to play football with a guy called Edward Cullen.
Oh,
and
no.
we didn't know that was his actual name, because he went by like a nickname for like a year and a half, and none of us bothered to ask him until he just told us one night, and we're like, oh, we get it now.
Oh, we get it. Yeah, that makes sense. That's why you will take any other name.
Yeah, I won't say his nickname because then people will know. And I don't, you know what I mean?
You'll out him.
Yeah, I realised I was about to give him a shout out, and then I thought, no, I'll let him preserve his animosity.
Also, before we move on, after last week when I didn't have like the right T-shirt on, this week I went with a Dawn Guard T-shirt, which are the vampire hunters from Skyrim. So I dressed appropriately today.
I like it.
Thank you.
My idea has the sort of the grotesque, like, ridiculousness of like Twilight and Van Helsing, but then if anybody's ever like deep nerded on the vampire culture and seen Moonlight, it's very much the tone of Moonlight, where it's kind of like, oh man, vampires.
Right.
Moonlight's about
vampires.
Moonlight,
aren't you?
No, not the big movie.
Not the good one.
Okay.
No, it was a TV show in 2008 that I'm in love with and was great, with Nick St. John.
I didn't reference Dawn Till Dusk. What a vampire movie!
You mean From Dusk Till Dawn?
What did I say?
Dawn Till Dusk.
Oh, well, I'll cut that out.
Okay. Any other questions, or should we try and merge these ideas?
Just Quentin Tarantino's in it. It's so weird.
Okay, so we have, from Sean, we've got Fleabag, but with vampires. We've got Edward Cullen telling in quite a lot of detail his a 2-hour rendition of his own life, and how that went through the wars.
The
and
cheapest
all of the developments.
of today's shows.
The cheapest of today's shows. And then Joe pitched us a wonderful multimedia show that was the telling of the character Jessica's story in tandem with the events of the film as they happened. And then my pitch was a self-aware parody musical about warring vampires and a protagonist reliving Edward Cullen's narrative, but being self-aware about it, and it's all about liking each other and stuff. So this is the part of the podcast where we try and swish those ideas together. We've got a list of things that every show has to have to be a theatre show. That is the story, the style, the staging, what's the set gonna be, what cast, and what are any other needs that we need. So let's start with story, because I genuinely have no idea how
I
we
think
merge these.
because I'm the only one who done a show literally about the Wikipedia page within my show.
I did it about the Wikipedia page as well.
Honestly, at this point, I think purely because, let's face it, nothing good can come from talking anymore about Twilight. We just all agree not to do anyone's shows and go home.
No, Joe. I'm going to stand up for Twilight. I'm going to put my reputation on the line and stand up for Twilight. Like, no, it was a sensation at the time, you know, and yes, that doesn't mean that it was any kind of good, but it, you know, Stephenie Meyer's writing style is fantastic, and it was a story that engaged with a lot of people, you know, and yes, she made the interesting choice of making them sparkle in the sun. But that is, you know, that's not at the core of the story, and the books were far better than the films.
Do you want to get me started on Stephenie Meyer's writing style? Because I have a long list of problems that I have with her. Starting with the fact that she stated that... Oh, you don't want me to talk about the fact that she stated she would only put black people in the books if she could make them the villains? Okay.
Okay, I didn't know that. I mean, that's Stephenie Meyer's politics rather than her writing style. But all right, that's great, fantastic.
Oh, if you didn't think this wasn't going to come up in the episode, you were wrong.
No, I mean, I didn't know it existed.
I'm just on about the people at home. Anyone who didn't think this was going to come up, if you knew this, it was going to come up.
I mean, it was going to come up. Of course it was going to come up. But we're talking about Edward Cullen, and it still affected, in a positive way and in a curious way, the lives of many teenagers, as well as Tumblr. Because, Joe, I think you'll agree with me that one of the best ever fan fictions was Edward... No, it wasn't. It was Harry Potter. And then the next one was Edward Cullen and Twilight series.
Are you on about My Immortal, which was Harry Potter? Not.
Yeah, but it was kind of like a smush between them because it was written at the time of Twilight.
I was really worried when you said one of the all-time great fan fictions and we were discussing Twilight, you were about to bring in 50 Shades of Grey.
No! Again, another horrible publishing deal that made somebody a lot of money.
Also, I more consider My Immortal to really be Evanescence fan fiction with Harry Potter thrown in. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. Okay, Sean.
I feel like I just blanked for like 10 minutes.
One day
I don't know
we will
what just
introduce
happened.
you.
You know what? I would explain My Immortal further, but just in case it comes up as a further random online encyclopedia article, I will not.
You just need to read it. I've never laughed so hard in my life. It's brilliant. Anyway, we need to... we're not talking about My Immortal. We're talking about Edward Cullen and our 3 renditions and how we merged them together. So what is the story that we're going to go for?
It's Highlander, but with vampires, and one of them can be called Eddie. I'm sorry. I know you're trying, Gemma.
Okay.
But I don't know how. I don't know how to put it together.
I want it
How
to
about
be...
this? Have
Okay.
either of you seen a Jet Li Jason Statham movie called The One?
Oh, yeah, we put Anna Kendrick in it.
Yeah.
No.
Basically, The One is all about. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but as far as I remember it, or at least let me just pad this out while I remind myself firmly of the plot. But as
It's
far
a
as I
good Jason
remember, it
Statham
involved
film.
a man who was going through the multiverse, killing every other version of himself so that he could be the only one of himself, and the cop who's trying to stop him.
Poor Jessica is just in the background.
So my thinking is, what if we merge Sean's universe, the film universe, and your universe, and have Edward Cullen is trying to destroy every other Edward Cullen, including the Edward Cullen of your universe and the Fleabag monologuist of Sean's, and the only person who can stop him is Jessica, the character everybody forgot.
But we know that it's not Edward Cullen who's going around to try and kill him. We know that the only person who wants Edward Cullen dead is Robert
Pattinson. Yes, exactly. That's the twist.
And he dresses up as Batman to do it.
Yes, it is Robert Pattinson going around dressing as Batman, giving insane recipes for pasta burgers. And
What?
Oh, you have not seen about his lockdown recipes? Oh my god.
Oh my
That
goodness,
is
I
another
need
thing I
to-
will get to in a second. But yeah, it's Robert Pattinson trying to hunt down every fan fiction version of Edward Cullen in the multiverse in order to erase it from existence. And the only person who can stop him is Jessica, the one character he forgot about.
I love this idea. I did when I was thinking about Edward Cullen. I was just like, do we do like a Robert Pattinson take on Edward Cullen? And then I was just like, that's a whole wormhole that we're throwing ourselves down. So I like that idea. Is that like we stumble upon the like him ruminating and discussing with people his long life story, and he just gets stabbed in the back, Buffy style, and then he jumps to the next universe, and it's the musical number, and he's like, what the hell? Just like there was that musical episode of Supernatural where they were like, what? It's that same thing, and they get stabbed Buffy style, and then Jessica...
You get Star Trek in this episode from me, and then Jen was like, no, I'm having mine as well. Supernatural.
No, but it's true. It's the exact same reaction that I think he'd have. I like that. I don't know how you'd pad that out into a full show, but I think it could be... I mean, it could even start with him as Robert Pattinson in there going, so back in 2006, I didn't want to be just known as that kid from Harry Potter. I was going to be known for being someone bigger.
In fact, I think I know how it opens. It opens with him reading the recent GQ article where he describes his creation of Piccolini Cuscino, Little Pillow. So, you take one giant, filthy, dust-covered box of cornflakes, 9 packs of pre-sliced cheese, tomato sauce, pasta, he recommends spaghetti, and some tin foil. You put it all mashed up together in the tin foil. You use one incredibly large novelty lighter to flambe the insides before cooking it all in the oven in one mash of sugary cornflakes with pasta and cheese and tomato.
Dude, I don't think we need to do a self-aware parody. I think he is a self-aware parody, but I'm not entirely convinced on the self-awareness bit. That's still in question.
To be fair, if you're listening, Robert, I applaud you for refusing to get into Batman shape in lockdown, because why do you need to be in Batman shape at all?
Okay, so we're going to go with the story of Robert Pattinson jumping through all of the different versions of fanfic and shows, including our own, and obliterating the Edward Cullen as he tries to take back the mistake that he made by being part of it, despite the fact that it launched him into some form of iconicness.
But he's made a bit of money off that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that the ending of it also has to be, therefore, if we're being this self-aware, is Robert Pattinson kicking the shit out of the three of us. Before having to kick the shit out of himself.
Yeah, and then Jacob turns up and he's like,
Oh God!
I did
Taylor
all of this.
Lautner.
I did this all to myself, and I still wasn't even the favourite.
Yeah. The ending of it is actually Taylor Lautner. It's been like, why do I care? I get to be on Cuckoo. It's pretty good.
Okay, so
I like
that's
that
the
show.
story of the merged one. I think
No
that's
idea.
it's the weirdest jump and merge we've ever done in story. But I like it. I like it. So, what's the style of the show?
So I
It's,
think it can weave through it multiple styles because
Yes.
it's him jumping into these different universes, and each of the different universes has a different style.
Yeah.
I like
Yep.
that, yeah. And
Well
the
done,
audience,
Joe.
are the audience, is it like end on? Like, what's the staging? Is the audience gonna be sat in seats, or the audience gonna have to come with him? Is it gonna be on promenade, or
I think we really confuse the audience by having it be front on for the first half, then they come back in for the second half, and suddenly it's in the round.
just completely
And they have to
give
try and work
all-
out where their seat was.
all-
The only
as-
consistency is anyone who paid for an aisle seat still gets an aisle seat. Beyond that, it's a free-for-all.
and Robert Pattinson's just there screaming, running amongst them.
Yeah, he's just in there just being like, what's your seat? D6. Over there!
Yeah. We need to get the ship back on its road. Oh my goodness, the audience are all in the ship that he's flying between multiverses to get to the multiverses, and they all have to... I saw a show when I was a kid where it was like a space show, and in order to make the spaceship take off, they gave you a bag of, you know those space, the sherbet-filled space sweets? Space Invaders, I think they're called. But the whole thing was like everybody had to, when the spaceship took off, you had to eat the little sweet in order to be protected against space. I think we give everybody Space Invaders we give everybody pasta covered in tomato sauce in order to protect them from the multiverse.
Casino!
Yeah, we have Robert Pattinson prepare them a meal that they have to consume in order to get the show back on the road.
Also, and this is very important, because of all his work with Cronenberg since then, he does end up in one universe where he's basically fighting Cosmopolis Robert Pattinson.
Okay, right, so there's multiple styles, and the stage setup is changing as well.
Scaffolding.
And the set, what's the set? Is the set scaffolding?
I think it has to be scaffolding.
I think the
I
set...
just want to point out, I tried to take it really seriously this week. All right. So I just want to know if anybody's listening and we got to this like multiverse stuff. I tried to do a proper serious play. Okay.
Sean, I tried.
And yet you didn't
addressed
account for the fact
themes.
that I'm here.
Dude,
That addressed like war and immortality and life and love. I tried this week.
no, dude, come on. I even gave you I gave you the content of the first and the second act. I tried. I made up songs. I wrote a song.
Your main characters were called Eddie and Ella. Ellie.
Sean, have you read anything I've ever written? The one thing I cannot do is name characters. It's just universally known that I cannot name characters.
Why can't you name
whatsoever.
characters? Just think of a name now. Charles. Trevor.
I've
Paula.
never even named my own pets because I'm that bad that I feel
Steph.
bad for them that they'd have to live with that for the rest of their life.
You
No,
wanna-
that
you-
it's bad.
You can name a pet really easy. Name an animal. I'll give it a name.
Hamster.
Raspberry.
Oh my goodness, that is a good name. See, you're good at it. I'm not.
So talking of multiple names, how big's the cast gonna be?
Yes, nice segue. High five for that segue. So the cast definitely needs Robert Pattinson. We need to
Don't give
actually
him
cast...
compliments after this.
So the cast is Robert Pattinson. Is it Pattinson or Patterson?
Pattinson.
Pattinson.
Yeah.
So it's Robert Pattinson, and then I think there's got to be at least 20 others. You know, it's a big
Yeah.
cast because there's a musical and...
Well, no, because you just really need one other guy. Because you need another guy to play Edward Cullen.
Yeah.
So it's
we
got to be
need
the
a
same guy.
doppelganger. We need a doppelganger and then a few people, sorry for that bands. We need a few people
It's
who...
a small cast. I think you need a small cast.
Yeah, we need a small cast to, like, support. So, and to anybody who's listening, that big bump was me dropping my microphone. I'm so excited about Robert Pattinson. Okay.
Oh, the Harry Potter fella.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we just onboarded Sean. All right. Are there any other needs other than weird spaghetti?
And
A lot.
an open bar. That's what you need. Yeah.
We also need a lot of stagehands to be able to move the seating around, as well as shepherd every bit, because, like, you know that people in the intervals, some people don't move, so they're gonna have to shepherd that move that seating around, including the dude who doesn't want to leave his seat.
Hate them people. Hate them people at work. It's like there's no curtains. Just like move. I need to change the set. Especially when I was doing Little Shop of Horrors, and I'm there like, you need to move. Oh, do we have to? And I'm like, I gotta put the plant in.
Yeah, leave. This is why we have curtains, Sean. Yeah. So we just changed the direction signs.
Yeah. And they're like west that, and then because you're in Sheffield, you say, well, you go that way, you pass about 3 water fountains, and on the 3rd one you turn left, and there's about another 5 water fountains, and when you get to the 5th one, you turn right, and it's there.
And if it's sunny, the water features are going to blind you because they're all made of shiny metal. Yeah.
Sheffield.
Anyway, okay, so right, I think that we're at the end of the list of any other things, other than we need to have
the budget
rights.
talk.
The budget. We need to have the budget as well as the rights in order to use the name and idea of Edward Cullen. But yes, that is the Smushed Show. So the Smushed Show is a multiverse show where Robert Pattinson is traveling through multiple universes, killing various different renditions of Edward Cullen, whether they be fandom or official spin-offs of Edward Cullen. It is in every style possible that we can fit in there, because each universe is different styles. It's staged in 2 separate theatres so that we can mess about with where the audience seat in order to give them that feel of a multi-universe. The set is made out of scaffolding. It is starring the one, the only Robert Pattinson, featuring the lovely 3 voices and faces you see here today. Sean, Joe, and Jem at the end as cameos where they get beat on by Robert Pattinson. We need his doppelganger. We've got a cast to support him, and we need spaghetti to feed the audiences, lots of rights, and some fun and an open bar so that we don't lose our careers over this idea. So it's either going to lose us our career or it's going to be an absolute hit, because let's be honest, Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey, we're going in the ridiculous style of them, thinking it'll never happen, but maybe it'll make us billionaires. But yeah, so that...
And I have a title for it.
Okay, it is
In
called...
tribute to Sean mentioning Highlander, the play is called There Can Only Be One.
No!
Can only be one.
Okay, I suppose I was the...
and he goes round with a Scottish accent saying, "We are brothers!"
And the final line of the play is, "I'm not even Scottish. I'm just trying to avoid being called Edward Cullen in the street." Brilliant.
Neither was Sean Connery's character in Highlander. He wasn't Scottish either, but he still had them.
Yeah, he was meant to be Scottish. I mean, Spanish, I think.
No, wasn't he? No, I'm pretty sure he was Egyptian. Wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't he?
I
Egyptian who grew up in Japan.
I think we're falling foul on something else entirely there with that casting choice of Sean Connery. Fantastic actor. But anyway, so that has been Edward Cullen, the online encyclopedia article, as by Ofit D. If you liked any of them, let us know. But before then, I'm going to... Sean gave us the joy of Edward Cullen. I've genuinely enjoyed it. But Joe, we're going to move over to...
It's been different, hasn't it?
I've loved it.
Been an odd one.
I've really loved it.
So, while I load up the random article generator over to our online encyclopedia of choice, you know what you can do in the meantime? You can go to your social media of choice and you can look up OFITD Arts and you can click that like, you can click that follow button, whichever button it is. But if you're not content with that, hey.
Every time we do this, you tell me that I need to get the name of the show right, but it's not OFITD Arts, it's OFITD Productions.
I mean,
it's OFIT. Hang on. On Instagram, it is at OFITD Arts.
Yeah,
I've got your back, Joe. I've got your back.
Thank you. And just for that, Sean, we'll go to you first. Where can people find you on the socials if they want to?
Well, if you want to follow me, it's still Shawnee B. It rhymed, sort of, I think.
What?
It sounded like it did.
And because she attacked me for getting something wrong that I got right,
Don't
we
follow
won't find
Gemma.
out, Joms.
No.
Joms? We'll find it out now because, hey, Job, where can we...
This is a mess.
Apparently I get OFITD Arts right. I can't get Gem right. Hey, Jom, where can we find you, Gem?
It's because she spells it with a J, apparently.
Hey, Joe, we've only known each other for nearly 10 years now.
Yeah, I know your name, Jemima.
Jemima. You can find me at OFITD_JEM. So OFITD_Gem.
And you can find me at Not Joe Ranchka on Twitter. That's NOTJOERACZKA. And now, are you both ready to find out what next week's show is going to be about?
I get why Joe spells his out. I never get why Gemma spells her out.
Because Gemma's usually spelt with a G.
Well, then just say...
I'm a J.
It's Gem with a G. You don't need to tell them, is it E&M after? Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I was trying to... Oh, Sean, just because you're jealous that I pitched an amazing musical today.
I'm quite happy with mine. Joe,
really
what's the article?
Joe, what's the article? Stop the fight from happening. I'm terrified by the look on your face.
Kyle Biederman. Kenneth Kyle Biederman, known as Kyle Biederman, is a Republican member of the Texas House of Representatives for District 73. Biederman received public criticism for his Halloween outfit of Gay Hitler.
Oh, brilliant. If we thought this episode was, off the rails, we've got
Wait till
Joe.
We get into next week with me, Republicans, and Gay Hitler.
Brilliant. Oh, goodness. So, I'll put a disclaimer at the beginning of the next episode. Brilliant. So, this week...
Have we got, a thing where we can, veto something?
I mean, Sean... We had your thing, we had comics, we had Gem's thing, we had Twilight. Now it's my thing. Republican controversy.
I can't believe that my thing has come down to Twilight. I've got so many other
You said
things.
it's your thing. You claimed it is your thing.
This was my thing when I was 15.
We have recorded this, so we can go back, Gemma.
Do you want us to replay the tape? We will.
No, I will burn the tape. Right. On that bombshell. Oh no, it's all started already.
It's going to be a long week, isn't it?
It's going to be a really long week. And it's going to be an even longer week as people sit now after listening to this and wait for the next one. So this week we've not done Edward Cullen. 15-year-old girls from the early 2000s wanted to do Edward Cullen, but we have created the show Edward Cullen under various different titles. Fleabag, but with vampires. We've got the show about Jessica, the musical, and then we've also got multiverses. Whichever you liked, if you've gotten this far, great. Tell us which ones. Let us know in the comment section or on the voting polls which of the pitches you liked the best. And if you think you can out-pitch us on the best way to make Edward Cullen a theatre show, then pitch us. And if we think that you're amazing, we'll have you on. And we may be replacing Joe with you next week. If just only out of
Why
fear.
do you always threaten to get rid of Joe?
No,
To be fair, normally it's
come
me
on.
threatening to quit.
Yeah, it's, you know.
What else are you going to do on a Wednesday? Just...
But yes, anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share it all everywhere.
Yeah, Jem, we've already done this bit. You do this every week. We've covered that bit. Did the sharing, did the internet thing.
Sure, I need a new outro. I need to write that rather than sit and write a 2-page document about the inner workings of a musical based on Edward Cullen.
And as always,
Hey,
keep
Gemma.
pitching.
Finish your spiel.
All right, thank you everybody for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much. This has been Edward Cullen with O for D. Next week is, say his name, Joe.
Kyle Biederman.
Kyle Biederman. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
And don't
Bye.
forget to follow us on all the social media stuff.
Oh,
Bye.
NOTJ, we are HCZKA. Bye.
Bye.
With arts in it at some point.
It's got a J in it.